As we are each and every Friday at 7:20 by our very good friend Brent Hubbs of Volquest and On 3, getting the latest on Rocky Top. Good morning, Brent. Happy Friday. How are you?
Happy Friday to you, Mr. Payton. I hope life is well. Congratulations on you.
Thank you. Thank you. You know, Brent, I've never been more thankful that when my parents were naming me, they didn't go with their second choice, which was Peyton, for certain obvious reasons, because I was born in 1997. So I'm actually thankful that we're both not Peyton Bowling at this point. So we're very happy about that, Brent. Very happy about that. Thank you. I appreciate it. Congratulations
to both of you. I wish you nothing but the best, my friend.
Thank you. My dad is listening somewhere being like, you almost were Mr. Peyton Bowling. But anyway, it worked out all right. That didn't happen. Brent, as we wrap up the month of June, obviously far from knowing a starter for Tennessee at the quarterback position, but as we get to this point, what are you hearing about this battle and the way things are shaping up right now? How have those guys looked as they have been back working with their teammates for this last month again?
Well, I mean, I think they both have done well. I think that, physically, Faison's obviously bigger. But I think both those guys have done a lot of good things. I don't think it's over. I know a lot of people are sort of speculating somebody's out in front or fleeing a certain way. I don't think it's that. I think you got to go win it. Josh Heupel's made it very clear. You got to go win it in front of your teammates. That's the next month. That's fall camp. That's 2 scrimmages. So I would tell you it's probably about where it's been, because I don't think Josh Heupel's passing judgment right now. And so in his mind, I think it's sort of unchanged. It's just a battle. And we'll see who goes out and competes and performs the best and gets themselves ready to perform the best. That's really what the next month is for those guys, is getting themselves ready to perform the way they need to perform when you get into fall camp and scrimmage settings.
Brent, I know you guys wrote about this a bit in the war room this morning at Volquest.com, which any Tennessee fan always needs to be locked in on each and every Friday morning. But who are you guys hearing the most about, and who's getting the biggest and most positive reviews at this point of the offseason?
Well, I mean, I think you have to be careful just from the standpoint of not many people have had bad summers. Now, there's been a few, okay, so let's be honest here. We've known of a few that didn't do what they were supposed to do. But, the reviews on this team and their work ethic has been good. I think Nathan Robinson, because he's been healthy for the first time in his career in the offseason, has done really well, has had a good offseason. I think the freshman linebacker, Braden Rouse, has really enjoyed the weight room. I think it's been good to him. Now he's got a lot of competition at that position. T. Lander's a guy that is a forgotten man, but has had has seemed to gel really well with Derek Owens. I think he's better physically than he's been. So there's some competition there. I think TJ Metcalf has done really well. Probably a little bit of a forgotten man because he's just assumed to be a starter because of his experience. But I think he's adjusted well to the new system, and I think he's showing some leadership skills, as is Nathan Robinson. So, I think overall this coaching staff is pleased with where they are. They just know that there's work to be done over the next month.
Brent Hubbs of Volquest joins us here on Ramon and Will this morning. Brent, what about the corner competition at University of Tennessee with this football team? What's that competition been like so far, and how much better can they get at cornerback?
Well, I think they're going to be better because Ty Redmond's going to be a year better. He was thrown into the fire last year as a freshman, so he's only going to be better. Kaden Lee is a guy who had an okay spring, had a really good spring game. I think he's a guy that the more people you put on the field and the more people you put in the stands, he's probably a better player than he is just a regular practice player. So that's got to develop a little bit. But I think athletically, skill-wise, they went and got him out of the portal for a reason, and that was to come in and play quickly, and I think he will. I think the third corner at this point is Trey Poteet. And then, where's Tim Merritt? Where are some of these young guys that have come in here? But I think, this time last year, corner was going to be the strength of the football team, and it became a struggle for them because Ricky Gibson got hurt and Jermon McCoy never made it to the field. If they stay healthy, I think I like where they're at corner. I think Redmond is going to be a really good player, is a good player. I think he got better and better as the year went on. I think Caden Lee is a guy who's probably a little more athletic than Redmond. Redmond's longer. I'll be interested to see if Tennessee plays a boundary corner and a field corner, or if they just play it straight up, how they choose to kind of play that. Those are a lot of the things that we just don't know exactly how Jim Knowles is going to orchestrate and put this defense together. So, but there's good competition there. I think they really like where they've gotten to at safety. I think they feel like they're much better there. They love Quay Moss as the nickel. The question is going to be who's the backup nickel. And I think that's probably the overriding question of this secondary between now and the end of fall camp.
All right, how about this one? The 5-for-5 eligibility rule. How can that impact, or how potentially would that impact the football program?
Well, I think it's from a roster management standpoint, you've got to have a plan, because suddenly now you have some guys who you thought were going to be out of eligibility who might have another year. Now, how many of those guys want to come back? Like Arion Carter has not redshirted. He could theoretically come back, but I don't think anybody sees that as a realistic possibility, with where he's at in his career. But a guy like Jeremiah Thielander, a guy like Quay Moss, suddenly it can change the outlook of your team. If you're a general manager, you have to put that into your formula for roster management, roster retention. Suddenly it's, what do I need in a portal? Okay, well, I may need a nickel. Well, what if I can bring my nickel back? How much could I pay him to bring him back? If he doesn't have an elite year to go to the NFL draft, could I bring him back and have an experienced guy come back at that position? Those are all the things that surface now with the 5-for-5 that's coming up. It's going to, in time, clean a lot of things up and make things easier. But in the transition, you're suddenly finding yourself planning differently than you were 6 months ago when you looked at your roster management.
Brent Hubbs of Volquest and On3, our guest this morning here on Ramon and Will. Brent, I love the column this week talking about how the NCAA actually kind of proposed some changes that kind of make sense. So what a concept. What do you like about the NCAA's proposed calendar for college sports, and how much things could look different for football coaches in the near future?
Well, I love the fact that they have a plan. They put something together, first of all. I mean, geez, instead of talking about something, we've come to the table with something. So kudos to the oversight committee for not just oversighting for another year, right? I mean, we're trying to put something together. I think it's interesting because it gives coaches flexibility and some strategy. When do you want to do spring? How do you want to break spring up? You got to have some conversations with your strength coach, because you don't want to do a whole summer of practice, because that can hurt your physical development. But you also maybe don't want to go 3 months without football. For the interior, for your line coaches on both lines of scrimmage, they've had this rule in place where you could go through walkthroughs, and walkthroughs turn through routes versus air practices. For the offense and the skill guys, it's organized throwing sessions is what the installs have become. Well, for the defensive lineman and the offensive lineman, there's not a lot of value there other than some mental learning of the system, because there's no sled, there's no practice dummy, there's nothing you can do to develop your skill set. Now you're going to have a summertime where Rodney Garner can work with guys on a sled, and so can Glenn Ellerby, and so can every line coach around the country. I think the guys who love it the most are going to be your offensive and defensive line coaches, because they're going to feel like in June they're going to have true OTAs where they can really instruct and teach some guys. The question is going to be for head coaches, how do you manage the 27 days that it turns out to be that you can use? How many of them are in pads? When are they going to be in pads? How many do you do in the summer? How many do you do in the spring? But it's a strategy. And I think, listen, when those guys are making $12 million a year, let them have some strategy on what's best to manage their team. So I like it. I really do. I like the fact that they've done that. I think college football should be playing on week 0 every year. There should be 2 open dates if we're going to keep the current schedule calendar. But the reason being is it gives you another week ahead of the NFL's regular season. No offense, Rhett, to the preseason games.
Oh, yeah. Plenty taken over here. God, I love preseason football.
but suddenly now you're playing. What if you play Texas and Ohio State and there's no NFL competition against it? Now you can play Saturday, Sunday, Monday games in week 0, and you can schedule out some really good stuff. And you get 2 open dates, which I think is important when you're talking about potentially playing 20 weeks out of the year and you're 18, 19 years old, still developing as an athlete, still learning how to manage your body. So I just like the fact that there's some strategy involved now and some things make sense. It's kind of a shock to my system that they've done that, but hopefully, there's real positives from it because I think there is a chance that it could be.
Well, Brent, going back to the 5-for-5 eligibility stuff too, are we finally done with the days of guys like Cade Mays and Aubrey Solomon like getting on a plane to travel with the team, not knowing if they're eligible for the game that's literally going to be played that they are traveling to? Like, what a concept, right? Like we might finally have appeals processes that are done before like guys are putting on their sweatsuits and the new Adidas shoes everybody's about to get and getting on the plane to go play a football game.
Yeah, I mean, let's get out of the world where one guy at one school loses his appeal because maybe these compliance people didn't write it as well as they should have, and somebody else got their 8th year on some random medical deal. Let's get away from the fact that you're going into meetings on Friday morning and you don't know at the walkthrough, do I put him in the walkthrough line? Do I put him out there with the guys to go over the game plan, or do we not do that? Or the NCAA saying, hey, we just didn't get to it. We'll get to it by week 2 or week 3. I do think streamlining that is better for everybody. And there's no point in redshirting anybody anymore.
Right.
With the transfer portal, redshirts are a waste. So that takes that. Do I play him 4 games? Which 4 do I play him in? What do I do? Just play him. I mean, and so I think from those things, making it simpler, which has not been the forte of the NCAA through the years, making it simpler is beneficial to everyone from administrators, schools, the NCAA, all their committees and reviews and all those things, compliance, and obviously most importantly, the student athlete. Listen, you know what you got. You got 5 to play 5. And we're not trying to manipulate it into anything else other than you got 5 to play 5. I think that's a win. I think that's a positive.
Well, Brent, as Tennessee is in the middle of this incredibly competitive recruitment for David Gabriel Georgees, and it continues to be Tennessee versus Ohio State for this. What kind of response do you think Ohio State has had in this recruitment to try to get the momentum back after DGG's visit to Knoxville, as we are now within a month until one of the most talented running backs in the history of high school football in Tennessee gets ready to make his commitment?
That's a great question. I don't think any of us really know. I think the part with DGG that I find pretty fascinating is he just doesn't really like any of this. He just wants to pick someplace and go play. I mean, he's going to do a press conference in July that's already set up, so that date is not going to change. I think he is of the mindset, listen, when I make a final decision, I just want to put out a graphic and go on about business. But that's not how this works, and that's not how it's going to work, which is okay. I just don't know what affects him. You know what I mean? And I'm not picking on Ohio State in any way, shape, or form, but they offered his teammate, which I get that move. That's not the first time that's ever happened. see Nash Nance and Dayrick Roberts.
I was literally about to say Nash Nance entered the chat.
I mean, somebody pick up the phone and call Bo Hardegree. I've got examples of those. Through the years. So that's not some novel, radical concept. What kind of impact does that have? He has friends and teammates on this roster at Tennessee that he talks to and sees frequently. How big of an impact is that? You've got Carlos Lachlan, the running backs coach, tweeting out all this stuff in French. I mean, is he going to go out and learn French and that's how he's going to coach him? I mean, my guess is the play call will come in English, when they make that. I mean, I just don't, and I'm not trying to be mean. I'm not trying to be funny.
No, but you are funny.
I just don't know how important some of those things are. I understand why they're doing it. Yeah. I mean, Jean m'appelle. I know exactly why I know exactly why they're doing it. I mean, I get it. You know, you're trying to do everything you can. The same reason Tennessee brought Alvin Kamara up here when he visited.
Right.
Like, you're trying to not miss a step somewhere along the way. I just don't know how much impact any of that really has. We're going to find out, and it's going to be really, really quiet until we find out in July, I think.
Brent Hubbs, Volquest.com, joining us here this morning on Ramon and Will. Let's stay with recruiting for just a second. And I figure I know the answer to this because I don't see you writing about it on Volquest, but 5-star tackle from Mississippi, Kaden Moss, is supposed to announce his destination, I think, tonight. Tennessee is in that half dozen names that I saw mentioned. What's the path here for Kaden Moss potentially?
You know, that one's gotten interesting. I don't think it's Tennessee, but a lot of people have just assumed that that's Ole Miss or LSU, and I'm not sure that that's just complete lockdown. I mean, it's kind of been in my mind Ole Miss because they've just put all their eggs in that basket. And this is the new age that we're in, Rhett, in terms of, all right, this guy's going to command a lot of money. You know, he's really talented. That's what the market allows. Tennessee's got a sophomore in David Sanders. They have a sophomore in Ori Williams. They've got a redshirt sophomore in Jesse Perry. You know, all those guys are tackles. So, you know, next year, if David Sanders is back, if you're going to retain him, which why would you not, he's going to be a starter. And if you like Ori Williams or Jesse Perry, you're going to pay them to be your starter at the other tackle spot. So do you invest as much as it's going to cost in Kaden Moss to get him here, and then he sets for an entire year? So you're going to pay him 7 figures to set. Or are you better off waiting till the next year and going and getting the best high school freshman you can get, like you did with David Sanders, and plug and play them in as a freshman? This is the new age of recruiting. If you're going to pay a lot of money for a high school kid, okay, DGG falls into this category, I'm sure. They don't hold clipboards, right? I mean, they're just not. You know, Jeremiah Love is not going to go to the NFL and they're going to go, hey, man, we're going to ease you in, and maybe middle of year 2, late year. I know you're the highest paid back in the league, but we're going to take it really easy. I mean, other than a couple of quarterbacks 2 years, if you're an NFL franchise and you've got a first-round pick, that guy's going to the field. And if you're going to pay what I would consider first-round money out of high school, which is big, not equivalent to NFL money, but big money that I would equate to being first-round type money at the college level, that guy can't hold a clipboard outside of the quarterback position. You got to put him in there and play. So when you're managing your money and your budget, you have to figure out where some of your priorities are. And Tennessee loves Kaden Moss, and Kaden Moss likes Tennessee. It's just financially, it probably doesn't make the most sense for that marriage to happen unless Kaden Moss would be willing to take less money, but he's not going to want to set, you know, for less money. I mean, those guys want to play, and everybody understands that.
Sure. Makes a lot of sense. Brent Hubbs of Volquest with us here this morning on Ramon and Will. Brent_Hubbs, where you get him on Twitter. The War Room at Volquest.com. A must-read each and every Friday for Vols fans, and a Volquest subscription a must-have as well for Vols fans. Brent, appreciate you as always, sir. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Bonjour, guys. Have a great day.
You as well.
Oui, sir.
Thank you. Brent Hubbs of Volquest with us here this morning, presented by Ascend Federal Credit Union, your financial partner for every stage of life.